All right, welcome to, let me pause the music. Welcome to the Inside Careers in Digital Marketing and Social Media. We're very excited to have our panelists here today and have you all here today as attendees. We have a good number of questions that we'll be asking our panelists here today. Before we get started, we're going to talk a little bit about the Career Center. This week is Career Week, so please check out our Career Center website to check out all of our events for the week that culminates to our career fair at the end on Friday. If you need any help or assistance, feel free to let me know. What we'll get started with right now is kind of just a few brief things about our services in case there's anything that you need career related, anything under the sun, whether it be you starting out trying to figure out your career or you know exactly where you want to go, whether it be digital marketing and social media or the like. We can assist you with finding internships and finding careers in that path, and also connecting you with career professionals like today. So we want to get started right away. Online resources are here as well in case you have any questions on our online resources. We have things including interviewing help, resume help as well as career assessments to assess where you are and how your skills and personality may fit into different industries. So feel free to check on these resources on our Handshake, which is our main hub where you found this awesome event. Great. So we are going to be starting out with a somewhat of an overview, which we already did, introductions, and we're going to be moderating the panel, which will be facilitated by myself. And we'll have a chance to network in breakout rooms. So we're going to keep this agenda pretty fluid, just so that you all have enough time to connect with our career professionals. But we will jump right into things. These are our lovely panelists, and we're going to stop screen sharing in just a bit so you can see their live lovely faces. And as we will continue, we're going to let them introduce themselves and give a little bit of a brief introduction as time goes. I'll be doing my best to monitor some of the chat. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be okay. And then we'll go from there. All right. So thank you all so much again for joining in. If there's any issues on your end, feel free to DM me or send it in the chat, and I'll try to respond to it as soon as I can. But we will get started with our first question for today, which is please introduce yourself, your educational background, current position, and how long you've been in the industry. And we have, we'll kind of go in the format that it was in the slide. So we'll start off with Ali or Allison, if you don't mind starting us off with that.
Hi, yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Ali, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am a marketing coordinator at a agency that works with different performing arts presenters in Los Angeles. My educational background is in dance and specifically in the School of World Arts and Cultures at UCLA. So I'm an alum. And I've worked in sort of like arts administrative positions since graduating. And marketing has always been kind of like a facet of all of my roles, but this particular position is my first role actually in the industry of marketing and digital marketing and social media. So I'm somewhat new to the actual field of marketing, but it's always been kind of like my area of interest and strength. So I'm excited to learn from everyone as well.
Thanks, Allison. We'll go to Victoria.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria Gazoulis. My background is I was a BA in Global Studies at UCLA, class of 2007, my current position is Nike's partner lead at Google. So I represent all Google marketing products. So think Google search, YouTube, etc., in our partnership to Nike, and really helping them ultimately really like bolster their earnings by way of partnership with us in areas we can support them. I've been in the industry for 15 years. I had a brief stint at NASCAR out of UCLA, which I also loved, and then happened to stumble upon digital marketing. I knew I wanted to go into advertising. So I'm thrilled this is where I've landed, as you can probably tell from my 15 years in the industry so far. It's great to see everyone.
Awesome, thank you. We'll go to Mandy.
Hello, my name's Mandy. I was also a WAC student, and I think we're both mutual friends of Ivy, Allie. So and I own a marketing agency on Westwood Boulevard. I've been in the industry for about 12 years, and I created UCLA's Instagram.
Awesome. Katie, we'll go to you.
Hi, I'm Katie Itter. My background's way different than everybody else's. So I am a digital fiber artist, and I've been working in the arts for about 15 years, but I've really only been doing marketing since for the past couple years, and I market my own art. So I don't really work for a company or anything like that. It's all kind of done for myself. And my background is I got interdisciplinary visual arts at University of Washington, and I got an MFA at SUNY New Paltz in sculpture. So I think that was all the questions.
Thanks, Katie. And Keith, we'll go to you.
Hi, my name is Keith Kessler. I work for the Los Angeles Public Library, currently running the social media. My educational background, I had a BA in English, and then I got a teaching credential, taught middle school for a few years. And I got a master's in library science and got a job in libraries, and just kind of fell into social media because they needed somebody to run the account back in 2012. And so, yeah, it's been more than a decade working in social media now.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. We're going to jump right into the next question. So for the next question, what were some of your roles when you began your career, and how did you choose or find yourself in digital marketing, social media, and related industries? And we'll go in reverse order. So Keith, you could kick us off.
So when I started, I was just working at the library in a kind of normal position, and they just needed people, and no one had any experience. So it was kind of like, okay, the barrier to entry was pretty low. And so around that time, I did a post about Breaking Bad was ending, and I did something like a pretty basic post, a reading list, and that ended up going viral because I think there just wasn't a ton of good content online at that time, and it was kind of my first experience about like, okay, if you put something out there when a trend is happening, there's a decent chance it can catch on and get a good amount of media attention.
Awesome. We'll go to Katie.
So I kind of talked about this earlier, but so my roles began in art museums, and then I majored in sculpture for grad school and became an artist. And so my beginning of getting into digital media was really just to market my own artwork, and just kind of figuring things out on my own. So I didn't really have anybody to learn from. So it's been kind of a wild ride.
Thank you. We'll go for Mandy. Go for it.
Yeah, so I think for students, this is interesting because I just sort of pitched my way into social media jobs all around campus. It wasn't called social media yet, but I joined like the media team in Res Life, and they didn't run their Facebook page, so I just did it. And I found a nonprofit I really liked in the World Arts and Cultures department, and they had an event, and I said, I can't find your event. I should be able to find your event. Do you want social media? And they said, are you an angel that dropped down from heaven? And I got a faculty advisor out of it. And then I was just remembering this. I worked at the Japanese department because they had like an internet job, and they gave me Paint as a program to make Facebook cover photos with, which I just like woke up in a cold sweat recently remembering that experience. And so when it was time to apply to an internet job for the UCLA marketing department, I had sort of like created a career that way, like way before I'd volunteered, and then just sort of like stumbled through things that interested me and topics that interested me. And that actually gave me a lot of breadth to walk in and call Instagram.com 38 times to get the @UCLA handle.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we'll go to Victoria.
All right, so I touched on a little bit of this so far, but post UCLA, I went through a program called Game Face up in Portland, Oregon, which connects you with front offices of pretty much any pro sports team imaginable. So I had offers from like the now Las Vegas Raiders, at the time as the Oakland Raiders, the Golden State Warriors, the Panthers. I mean, we're talking all over the map, literally in the United States. Chose NASCAR because it paid the best, which still wasn't great. Pro tip, if you're not a pro athlete, you typically don't make much working in pro sports, but I'm glad I fulfilled that interest because now I have no regrets about it. When I was at UCLA, I was a UCLA cheerleader and also participated in, at the time it was called Blue and Gold Club, which was athletic recruiting. So I knew that was the route I wanted to go, either work in pro sports or marketing advertising. So did the stint at NASCAR for about a year, then found myself at one of the big six agency holding companies. It's called IPG, or Interpublic Group. I was working for a shop in West Hollywood, loved it, at the Pacific Design Center. Couldn't have asked for a better location, but there were nights I was working till midnight. I was making $35,000 a year at the time. So hustle is definitely key. And then ultimately found my way during, the recession of 08, 09, through to a company called ValueClick, which is now owned by another big six holdco, Publicis. And from ValueClick, moved back up to the Bay Area, where I'm originally from, and ultimately went to Google simply because all roads sort of point to Google, as much as I was avoiding it in the career path I was taking. Like, if I wanted to learn and grow and, continue to build upon my career, this was really the place to be when I came here 10 years ago. So the rest is history.
Thank you. And we'll go to Allison.
Yeah, so when I was at UCLA, I was kind of involved in a lot of different events organizations. I was a part of student committee for the arts, and I had some positions at the Center for the Art of Performance. One of them was marketing assistant. And then I was kind of just in the beginning stages of my professional life. I approached it kind of as like trying to get my hands dirty with as many roles as possible related to like events and arts and culture and communicating with others. And so I had different roles as like a choreographer's assistant. I was a personal assistant in the music industry. I worked in ResLife for a little while as well. And I think now I found myself working for a marketing agency that works with performing arts presenters, because what I enjoy is how to kind of convey the message of the concerts and artists that I'm promoting, and how to build community with like specific LA audiences, different kind of micro communities, how to make those matches. And yeah, I think it's a fun challenge, and that's kind of why I've found myself specifically in marketing now.
Thank you all so much. I think it's great to hear the different diverse ways of where we came and where we are going. And it's great, whether it be filling in for different spaces that need filling, or just making sure you don't have any regrets in the experiences you have. I love it. Cool. So for our next question, we have, what are ideal skills, qualifications necessary in your field? And we'll just reverse it this time, and I'll be creative in the next ones. Go for it, Ali.
Yeah, I think in digital marketing and social media, it's definitely important to be organized, managing like a high volume of information and often also numbers and kind of like metrics of success for clients. It can be overwhelming, so it's important to be organized. And I think also being able to notice when something isn't working, when if you have a campaign in progress that isn't doing well, or a strategy for promoting a show that isn't getting the numbers or selling tickets or whatever, it's important to be able to recognize that and creatively re-strategize to make it work. Yeah, so I would say strategy and organization are maybe the top two for me.
Love it. And if you all know the order, feel free to jump in. Go ahead, Victoria.
All right. So for me, since I'm more on the sales side of Google, I definitely say being outgoing, not like having a lot of humility in terms like you get no a lot. So being able to shift and have a more consultative mindset. And with that, I'd say a growth mindset, because the digital space especially is drastically evolving. As my mom likes to say, she's a retired educator. Like, my job didn't exist when I was in high school. So happening to get into the industry, and then when I was at the ad agency, getting aligned to the digital team, which was total happenstance. They could have put me on the broadcast team. I just really learned as I went. And then I'd say really exercise your network. Like, any job I've gotten, there are a couple exceptions. Like, I've really exercised my network both for like referrals, but then also I paid really close attention to when you are in interviews, or is your cup getting filled, or are you kind of like losing steam in those interviews? Because when I took even this Nike role at Google, there were two other roles open, Sephora and Apple. And I'm so happy this is the route I went. And in each interview, even with my skip level managing director, like, I gained energy from them versus like losing them. And so that told me a lot. And I'm so glad 2 years later in this role, like, this is where I went, because, it's just been really fulfilling and I've grown a lot, and the people you're around truly makes a difference. And I think you'll learn that more and more as you get deeper in your career, especially.
That's really insightful. I really like that, Victoria. Yeah, I think like looking back, I had some interviews that were so draining, but I felt like I had to pay my dues in marketing, which I honestly think you do. So after I left UCLA, I worked at a tech company, and then later for the Olympics, Beats by Dre, CBS, Fox, a whole handful of companies before leaving and starting my own company. But I can totally reflect on interviews, Victoria, where like the person was exciting and we had banter, and then like someone else that just seemed so unimpressed and so bored. And I can look back and look at the entire position and feel like I was unimpressive and boring to them. And it's like, choose a boss, not a job, right? And so yeah, I think the ones that I wrote down, considering that background, is collaboration. Social media is an art job. You are a hired creative. Like, this is the modern commissioned creative work. And so you need to get used to getting feedback on that work, and a little slice of you is in that work, and it hurts when you get feedback. And you got to love feedback. You have to be willing to eventually, like, as you gain confidence, stand in your ground and what you think is best, because you do have expertise no matter where you start. But also at the end of the day, like, you are a commissioned creative, you're in a customer service role, and your job is to be a barista and to make what they ask for. The other thing, yeah, and that's like the collaboration piece, and creative resilience is what I wrote. I think collaboration with other people is just a huge part of this job. It feels like you're just going to be behind a computer screen, but you're actually going to be constantly talking to people. about your job. You're going to be constantly defending your job and explaining your job. And so getting ready for that, all of the teaching involved in that, and the customer service involved in that, and all of the critical feedback that's going to come, and just sort of taking it as it is and not taking it personally will really help you.
Go for it, Katie.
I had to unmute myself. Yeah, I think all of those were like very similar points to what I'm feeling with my experience with digital marketing. I think wanting to connect to people and not being afraid to like put yourself out there and make connections to other companies and things like that, I think are really important. I think, for myself, one part that I struggle with is I'm an introvert. So sometimes that translates to being an introvert through social media. And sometimes I have to just like force myself to like get in there and be able to, get my work out there in order to sell my work. And that's an important part of it. So I think, making connections and being outgoing is really important.
Go for it, Keith.
Okay. I would say for me, so I manage social media, so I have to do kind of the creative aspect of putting together the posts and then responding to things. And so I said quick wit for one of them. I used to get in trouble in school for talking back to the teacher, but then I feel like that skill is kind of paid off working in social media. Like other people have said, ability to kind of take feedback from others and learn from it and move on. You can't take a lot of the stuff that people say or comments you get all that personally. You have to be able to kind of let all that roll off your back. Similar, I think there's so much content that we have to create that you can't really be a perfectionist about any of it, or else you're just not going to be producing enough. So it's like you got to be able to let things go and just know that you got to get it posted and get up. Similar kind of multitasking. There's so many projects coming at you in this type of job. You can't really like have tunnel vision and be like, I'm just going to work on this, because there's 5 other things that day that also have to get done. And then kind of similar to like you need to be able to learn and change with this job, because as people said, things are changing so quickly. You can't get too attached to something, and say like, I really enjoy doing this, I wish I could keep doing it. If the engagement drops on something, you have to kind of say, that used to work and it doesn't anymore. So we're going to have to go in a new direction, regardless of how much maybe you enjoyed doing one specific thing.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So for our next question, we have, what do you wish you would have known before entering your career? And since I said I was going to be creative with the order, we're going to go from the middle and spread out. So Mandy, we'll start off with you.
I said this the last time, but if anything goes wrong, get a lawyer. Lawyers are free sometimes, a lot of times. I left my career from an entertainment company during Me Too, and I just wish I'd known how to do that, when to do that. And so if anything happens, get a lawyer. Victoria works in sports. I've worked in entertainment. These are all like hard industries, and social media is considered a pink collar industry. They tend to hire women and they tend to underpay women, period. I have a woman-owned company, and I work with women and I work on women causes, and all I do is write data about this. So that's the hard truth, but I didn't know those things when I started. I think also the thing that everyone tells you is that you have to specialize, you have to have an industry. And I just kind of pursued what I was interested in, kind of like Ali was talking about. And that actually gave me a lot of breadth in my career and prepared me to enter a world that's just constantly changing. And so, if you want to pursue something and get really good at it and build your network there, great. But also if you're interested in multiple things, that's okay. I think just get good at something. So get good at something. And if you keep getting good at that thing, even if you're in different industries or different locations, that's okay because you're getting better.
Awesome. We will go to Katie for that next.
So I think just in general, when I entered the workforce, I thought it was really only about like the work you were producing was the most important. And that obviously is important, but I think as I've been working longer, I realize that the personal relationships you develop with everybody play a huge role in how well you do in kind of moving up. And you just in general, when they're looking at promotions or who can take on a new role, just the way that you interact with everybody plays a massive role in how far you're going to get in that organization. So obviously you need to really do the work as high as possible, but don't kind of ignore some of those soft skills and getting to know everybody as well as you can.
Thank you. Let's go with Katie.
Every time you see Keith, I always think you're saying Katie for some reason. Anyway, so I don't know if this is a good answer or not, but I think for me, what I wish I had known was just how much work goes into social media. I think a lot of times we think that if we just like post every day without rhyme or reason, that will, get followers or, get our work out there. But I think it takes a lot more research and a lot more timing and playing around with things and being able to like look back at what you've done and reassess things and try out new things.
Thank you. Let's go with Ali.
Yeah, I think what everyone has shared has really resonated. I think when I first entered just the workforce in general, I was quite stringent on sort of like hitting markers and doing it right, whatever that means, and sort of like providing deliverables. I think I often thought that like also a certain like if I would find a job opening that I was really excited about at some organization that I really liked, that it would be like the answer, the grand key to success. But what I've learned is that like progress, both personally and in the work that you produce, is much more circular, and that like sort of like mechanizing your progress is actually, for me at least, has been it's been counterproductive, and that like progress is actually kind of like Keith was saying, and like the people that you meet and the sort of like small sort of like daily lessons that you collect and then circle back to later and say, oh, now this time I have a different outlook, or I have this skill. And also what Mandy was mentioning too about like just doing something, just sort of like getting your hands dirty and trying it also is like a big part of the job. Yeah.
I can jump in, Andre. I think
Sorry, yeah, I was like,
you're
finding my
fine.
meter. Go for it. Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh. Yeah. So I've had so many light bulbs through each of your responses. One that really resonated with me, so being the daughter of two educators, my dad was also a teacher and he's now retired, is careers are not streamlined. Just because you put in the work does not mean you're getting the A or the promotion, etc. And that's taken me a long time to register. But no, yeah, there's an element of luck that goes into career and an element of, the people you're around, the skill sets you bring, and all of those elements ultimately combine to, especially like if you're going to a large organization like a Google, for example, like that's what will help you navigate. And sometimes the quickest way to move up is to take the job that maybe no one else wants. So obviously I'm in a more confident job, but it's one of those where I wouldn't have gotten it if I was new to my career. And I'm thrilled to have it now. So with that, my second point is often the answers are within you and no one else can answer them. So three things kind of came together to get me the role as Google's lead to Nike. One is my lifelong passion for fashion in that industry. When I was at UCLA, they were sponsored by Adidas at the time. So I did some grassroots marketing for Adidas out of college to help balance my poor pay from NASCAR. So working on nights and weekends. And then I obviously have the sports background. So pre-college, pre-being a cheerleader, I actually played basketball, volleyball, swimming and diving. So it's always kind of like been in my blood, and Nike's of course been like a drumbeat throughout. And then of course the tech layer, right? Like I came into the industry in tech, and so those three layers really came together to bring me where I am currently. And the one drawback is I can't get too comfortable, right? Because now I'm in a job I'm really passionate about. So remember that too. Like you don't want to stick around for too long in any role. Like you always want to make sure you're challenged, that you have mobility, that you feel like you're getting paid whatever you need to have a good lifestyle, whatever you consider that to be. And then I think a couple people touched on this point, but on when you do have those big promotions or big wins, they're honestly like not at all as exciting as the process. So prior to my role on Nike, I worked with a lot of insurers, and I was on our enterprise tech side of Google, now called Google Marketing Platform. And one of my clients, State Farm, I flipped them. It was a programmatic deal a few years ago. I flipped $100 million deal from one of our competitors over to Google. Huge win for me, right? And I ultimately got promoted from it. But the promotion, it was like great, but like, it wasn't some windfall, life-changing situation. It was really that whole process of closing that deal that was the exciting part. So know that too, like really enjoy the day-to-day and the process. And if you're not, think about always play devil's advocate, like what would you enjoy? What would make your day-to-day more exciting? Because that's the bulk of life outside of college is, your day job, really.
Thank you all so much for those nuggets of knowledge. I love it. All right, we're gonna go to our next question. In your experience, what are best practices to stand out when applying to internships or jobs and/or connecting with people within the digital marketing and social media fields? We'll use the same order in reverse. So Victoria, if I can have you go first. Go there.
Yes, jumping back in. So a couple things here. One is definitely be yourself. So for me, my voice is getting me a bit down today because I'm recovering from laryngitis, as I was telling Andre. I was like, the timing's not great, but at least I have a voice here. So definitely be yourself. So for me, obviously, like I'm pretty outgoing, bubbly, and that worked in some roles and didn't work in others. I feel like, Mandy, there's so much I could talk with you offline about. I had a brief internship in consulting when I was still at UCLA, and interviews and some of the comments that came out based on what I look like were completely inappropriate for the time and really got me down. So just be yourself and have confidence in that, and know that, well, yes, we all need the growth mindset and there's areas we can all learn and grow. Like also know there's like two sides to everything, right? And what someone tells you is very much a reflection of themselves as well. What else? So in terms of interviews, like know your storyline. So there's a true way, and this is my sales hat coming on, of like shifting any question and molding it to a way that really highlights your own story. So know those stories, know the areas where you've really like defied the odds, let's say, and bring those to the forefront. And practice, whether it's in front of a bunch of stuffed animals, your significant other, your parents. The more practice you have in shaping your responses to questions, the more confident you'll be, and the more easily you'll be able to like pivot in interviews too. The last piece I'll give you on that is, I think it was the networking piece, the digital marketing, social media. Yeah, the connecting with people. You can always ask when you're in interviews and writing thank you notes, hey, are there other people you'd recommend I connect with to learn more about the space? When I was at UCLA, I did a lot of informational interviews. And my parents had a few connections from like their own friends groups. I did like a brief stint in the sorority system. So like I had various sorority friends who had connections. Just ask around. And I think when you put things out there, like inevitably stuff comes back. So don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you don't receive.
Love it. Love the plug for networking. Great. Ali, go for it.
Yeah, I love what you shared, Victoria. I was gonna, yeah, I want to share something similar, which is like, I think context, focusing on what, who you are and how that might fit into whichever job you're applying to or client you want to work for or whatever. I think that sometimes when job searching, it's easy to kind of just think of it as like, okay, apply to as many as possible and try to reach audiences and recruiters broadly as possible. But actually the like fit that you're gonna find is through context and yeah, kind of what's specific about you and how it aligns with the work that you want to do, the organization that you want to work for, whatever.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, Ali. All right, we'll go with Katie.
Yeah, I like what everybody said so far. And I especially like when Victoria was talking about practice. So like, I think especially for someone like me, who's a bit more on the introverted side, like practicing what you're going to say is really important. Also, one thing, it's always introduce yourself, even when you think the connection isn't going to be worth it, because you never know when something's going to come up, or a lot of the jobs that I've gotten have been through people that I've connected with in ways that I didn't realize that they were going to come about. And almost every job I've ever had I've received either because I pushed forward and introduced myself and kept pestering people about it, or I got it through someone else that I had connected with previously. So that's my little tidbit.
Thanks, Katie. We'll go with Keith.
Okay. I haven't recently sat on an interview panel, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. The one I shouldn't have to say it, but you really have to do your homework for the place you're applying for. And you'd be shocked about how many people it's like they must have just gotten that link and ended up there, and you ask them and they're kind of clueless about the organization. To me, that's like a red flag immediately that this person just doesn't really want the job. So, minimum, go on the website, try to find out the basic facts, try to think about what questions they might ask you, look at kind of what they're posting, how, like what's good about it, what they could improve on, really get to know it well. So the people that are interviewing you get the feeling, okay, this person actually wants this job and has something that they could bring to the table. Along those same lines, I think for me, like when I'm looking for somebody, I want to see like, this is concrete, this is what the person has produced. And so kind of similar to what Mandy was talking about, just take an opportunity to promote X or Y or anything in the community, because I'm not interested in it had massive amounts of engagement, but just shows like the person has some amount of creativity, has a competence, can put together something. So it's like really something concrete a person can look at. And then I would also say at the jobs that I've worked at, if you really do great work, it's going to get noticed. And so sometimes it's really, you're going to be putting yourself into something and getting it to that level where people are going to appreciate it. So don't be afraid to really put in the time and get something to, the best level you can.
Kick it off to Mandy. Go for it.
I have so many. I'm so inspired by you guys. I'm like rapidly taking notes. So I'm sorry, but I'm not, because I wish I'd known all of these things. Absolutely love, yeah, what everybody said. Here's some things I've told my interns. Don't put your graduation year unless you have to. Bias is real. You don't have to do that. Don't use your graduation picture on your LinkedIn, especially if you're trying to apply to like a junior role that maybe you might be looking for someone with 3 years of experience. That's bias is real. It's an easy way to avoid it. If you're going to go get senior pictures, we have a photography studio in Westwood, by the way. If you're going to go get senior pictures, get a headshot at the same time. Like, don't make your it's fun. It's cool that you graduated. I can see that on your LinkedIn anyway. Like, don't include it because I can't tell you how many times I've heard that bias come up in hiring panels. Send a message to the hiring manager. If you don't know who it is, try to learn the like steps. It's probably someone with the name manager. So like, hey, I'm applying to this job. Yeah, I'm really interested. Like, I'm currently hiring, which I will be dropping links for our internship. But I'm currently hiring, and like it just stands out. Like, while we were in this call, somebody followed up from last week and they followed up twice. Is that a lot? Yes. Do I know their name? Yes. The cover letters are easier with ChatGPT. Oh my God, if I had ChatGPT in my application, can you imagine? Don't make it sound too AI-y, but if you get good, you'll get fast. There are secret job boards. So Keith works at the library. Keith, I think we talked about it. You have like a labyrinth of a job board, right? For the library. The city of West Hollywood is different than the city of Santa Monica, and they both need social media managers, and they both have different job boards, and they don't come up on Indeed. I didn't know this. CBS, I used to work at CBS, didn't come up on Indeed. Olympics didn't come up on Indeed. You have to know the job boards. I used to keep a list of like 100 on my phone, and I put it on my blog, and it's in the chat. And I just reposted one of all of the studios, because every studio also has their own job board. It's very annoying, but Google is giving you the thing that everybody's applying to. Tell everyone that you know what you're looking for. And networking isn't asking things of people, it's sharing what you're passionate about. So just tell everyone, like, I'm really excited. I think social media would be really fun. Do you have any advice on how to get a job? Just like Victoria said, like informational interviews. I always used to tell my interns, like, you still have like the young chubby cheeks, like use them. Like, I'm a UCLA student, I have big dreams, like keep using that. You only have it for so long. Also come to Social Media Club. If you're 21 and over, there's a networking event I host on the West Side every month. And the Social Media Club is the oldest social media networking group in LA. You can join the board of directors. I joined it when I was 19. And now I'm the president. Okay, sorry, I'm almost done. On your resume, I used to tell everyone to do 3 bullets. One is your super obvious big win. In marketing, that tends to be impressions. Gained 2 million impressions for XYZ campaign. That means something to HR, because HR, human resources, the people that often read your resume first, they don't know anything about marketing. They're just like trying to get some big things. Bullet 2 is the specific industry win for your manager. So then it's like 2 million impressions, and then it's like, you know, built specialized campaign for Discord, got 2,000 members, right? That's the smart, like, more industry specific stuff, because HR has handed them a resume. They're like, I don't care about bullet 1, bullet 2, aha. And then the third bullet is your qualitative. What was your EQ? How did you contribute? How did you make people's lives easier? You know, change process for branding by doing XYZ. So, and make sure it's quantitative, like make sure there's numbers in there. Whew. That was just like from the panelists. And the things that I put in was A, the internships at our photography studio in Westwood, B, the Social Media Club networking group, and then my secret job boards list, which isn't perfect. It's kind of old. I'm sorry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was really insightful by all of you. Thank you. And then we're going to jump into the last couple of questions. I'm going to just throw them in the air, so feel free to jump in. We'll make it kind of more fluid for the last 2. So if you're wanting to jump right in, feel free to do so. But for this next question, what are some myths about the digital marketing and social media industry that you would like to share with our students? And feel free to jump in whenever.
So I would say one big one is like somebody who's good personally at social media, or that you have to be doing social media personally to work in the field of social media. For me, the last thing I want to do is worry about that after I'm off the clock. And so I don't think that's something you really need to, I don't think that's like a barrier that you need to build up your personal followers or worry about that. I think you would be better off spent working on projects that show you can do that rather than trying to build up your personal social media.
I'll jump in. This is a meaty topic, so I'll just scratch the surface on it. But that the internet doesn't care about privacy. We'll put that out there. And there's a ton of legislation from GDPR in Europe to CCPA in California that has come out really over the past 10-ish years now, that has really been a forcing function as the result of all of us. We're all ultimately consumers too, right? Including all of you listening to this panel, all of us saying, hey, we want more transparency, because at the end of the day, a bunch of really smart people who are ultimately also like probably big nerds created the internet years ago and didn't really give much transparency into what a cookie is and different tracking, etc. So we're in the midst of a really large evolution, really, that's I'd say very exciting. And another example of like what's kind of keeping us on our toes, like if you think about when the mobile phone first came out, that was a big evolution. But just really rethinking like measurement, consumer privacy, etc. It is something that is discussed in my role on a daily basis that, you know, both my company cares about, as well as, you know, the marketers we partner with, and really getting that right. So I'd say, yeah, there's some meaty topics. Well, you see the exciting stuff like the output of, you know, when you're on YouTube, for example, like scrolling through videos and stuff, or like seeing the latest Nike commercial, like there's that piece, but there's all this stuff happening in the background. Like one of the VPs at Google likes to say she's like a duck, where like she looks very calm on the surface, but her legs under the water are going like this. And that's a lot of us in the industry, where we're working really hard, even if we're putting like a cool look on our face value. So that's my 2 cents of myth busting.
I want to echo that and what Katie said. It's a really hard job. Social is daily publishing. It's daily publishing. And so if you have a role where they are not backing you up, it's just you. I ran 12 shows for CBS. I ran all of primetime drama, the CBS brand, the CBS All Access brand, and all the shows that it launched. And it was considered a light job. So it's there's a lot of pressure. It is a lot of fun, but it's way harder than it sounds. It's also really rewarding, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think people sometimes look at just the end post that went up and they think that's only where the work went. There might have been 5 others that didn't go up, or even on that one post, it required so many revisions to get there. It's kind of a lot of the work that you don't see from the outside.
I'll throw another one out there just quickly, that digital marketing is purely online. So a big work stream I've been leading over the past couple of years is called omnichannel. So that is this idea, if you think about your own consumer behaviors, right? You might research something online, then ultimately go BOPIS, which is buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickup, like all of that. Like the smartest brands and the ones that are typically easiest for you to navigate as a consumer have thought through that life cycle. And instead of thinking about, oh, is this consumer buying in store or online, they're saying, no, the consumer is who they are. And we're going to do our best to make sure we're accommodating them wherever they are, however they want to shop, etc. So that's a really hot topic right now as well.
I'll go ahead and go. I think everybody's brought up some really good points. I think one thing for coming from my background is just that the myth that there's one formula for success and that you can just follow that one formula. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that, and it involves a lot of researching and a lot of testing and going back and forth and editing and stuff like that. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, I've mostly enjoyed listening to everyone share their own myth busts. But kind of, I guess, along with what Katie shared is like that there can be best practices for like the algorithm or certain formats that are proven to work and show results, but also my experience has been like you can also try things, and there's always a different way to get to an end result, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think I hear a lot of people kind of get caught up in like this hashtag is going to do it or this time of day, and some of those strategies have an impact. But what I've really found is like if the content is engaging and people watch it for X amount of time or engage with it, that's when it really picks up more than any of those kind of strategy points about like time or hashtags or other things.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's I'm glad that we kind of talked about the formulaic piece of whether it be your version of success or what it looks like in the digital and social media space. I feel like even going through the traditional education and getting to UCLA, there's kind of like these formulas, and this is what you do to get into school, and this is the next step. But I feel like there's a little bit of nuance when it comes to afterwards. And I think that kind of leads into our next question of what do you have any other advice for students, maybe in the terms of that section of like, oh, what is the next step? How do I get to a closer space to where you all are, or anything in general that we've discussed or anything else? I'll leave it open to everyone.
I can jump in. I should have mentioned that Zole helps run Kahoot's social media, which I feel like the students here have probably come across. And I think something fun with Kahoot is I like talking to people who grew up with it, because now there's entire generations who have. And I like talking to teachers who use it, and I like talking to people who used to be students who are now professionals who use it. For those who don't know, it's a really popular learning game that probably all of us didn't grow up with, but people have and people love it. I would say for you, observe what you consume. That's all. Just observe yourself. Start to know your patterns, because then you're going to start to learn how to understand other patterns. You are your best subject, and then start watching what others consume. And by consume, I mean media. Like, what billboards do you drive past and you notice? What billboards do you drive past and your mom notices? At family gatherings, what are your little siblings looking at on TikTok? What is your friend's brother who loves to game watching on Twitch? Why? What do they like about them? Start interviewing everybody you know, because everybody likes things for different reasons. And if you start getting good at understanding them, then you'll be good and ready to study the customers that you're going to work with. It's a really fun thing to do. Also, just start bookmarking what you like, just things you like. I call it a swipe file. If you go to my Instagram, you can see years of swipe files. I didn't invent that. Like, that's a big art thing. If you have taste, if you have like a style, and if you have an understanding of consumption, you're going to walk into this work being really prepared.
I'll jump in to say, make sure career doesn't become life. Like there's a time and a place for that. And there are times where you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm like so into this role, this job, whatever, that like it kind of just consumes you, which is fine if you're happy and feeling energized by it. But no, there's more life. I've definitely gone through phases where I've been so enamored in my career, but then I was not getting the returns on that. And that would ultimately just like steer me down, a bad spiral effectively. But I've actually really found for myself, and this is for all of us, right, as we're learning ourselves through life, like my balance has really been also volunteering on various boards. And so I'm on like a nonprofit board and a board for the city I live in. And then I have a toddler at home now, which that was another big debate, right? Especially being in a fast-paced industry, is like when to start a family. And that was something where, we were ultimately like, no, we need to start when we did. And granted, it ended up being, I gave birth 6 weeks into the pandemic, so that was fun. But now I'm 7 months pregnant again. So it's like, you can have everything you want. It's just a matter of like balancing out like timing and that sort of like give get of like, what are you willing to sacrifice for what you do? And even if you think about like the C-suite of a lot of big companies, like there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that. And a lot of those executives have families they might not see as much as they want to. And that's frankly why a lot of people don't want to be in C-suites of public corporations. So all food for thought. Know that everything comes with a sacrifice, and a lot of it's, what are you willing to tolerate and sacrifice for like what you're getting in return?
Yeah, similar, kind of thinking about some of the bigger projects I've worked on. And it's tough because there are times when something it's going to be a really tough project, and you're either going to not be able to do it, or you're going to have to dedicate more time than maybe you'd want to just for that period. But I personally found when it is something that's really important, you think it's going to go somewhere, you occasionally have to really put yourself in there and just go for it. And those are some of the things that really paid off the most. I guess the key is you just can't let that become like a regular thing and kind of lose yourself in the work, because that can happen pretty easily.
I'll share, I think that having ample room for like other interests or curiosities, because it all integrates, I think, making time for exploring stuff, whatever trends or what styles you feel like drawn to. I think it's all like, it's all copy and like good to pull from. Yeah, so I would say kind of explore, and also I think also what's fun to see like what trends of the moment I have strong reactions to. That's like a fun exercise I like to do sometimes. And I think like Mandy was kind of saying like investigate what sits with you.
Any other thoughts or last thoughts of advice? Maybe you could jump in, or anyone else with additional thoughts. Awesome. I said, yeah, go for it, Mandy.
Get the LA Library Libby app. I'm 500 books in. Audible is free. Don't pay for it. Yeah, you'll learn so much. You're going to be so tired after reading or after school or whatever, but just read a lot.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much to our panelists for answering our list of questions. What we're going to be jumping into is the networking portion of this event. We'll be splitting off to different breakout rooms. So I'll be allowing the panelists first to join. So if students could kind of hold off just for a second so that panelists could start making their way there. If there are any questions, I'll be here for a little bit. Oh, there was a mini request from the panelists to do a mini photo op, just a screenshot, mini screenshot. So I'll go ahead and do that. Feel free to do it on your own. So if you could smile for a second, that would be great. So 3, 2, 1. All right, all right. Cool, thank you all so much. And then what I'll be doing is I will open it up for the panelists to get started. I'll stop recording as well.